Hi everybody, this is foXnoMad, and today I want to help you travel smarter by showing you what you can do in Edinburgh if you've only got 48 hours. But I wanted to start off this video with a caveat, which is the weather here changes very frequently, like within 15-minute intervals. It can be sunny, it can be rainy, but there's a lot of rain and a lot of clouds, and if you're here in the fall or in the winter months, you're going to want to make a sort of gap in your plans to plan for one thing that you should do, which is hike up to Arthur's Seat, which is right up there. It's a solid hike of about 20 to 30 minutes up and about that much time down, of course, and getting there is about 30 to 20 minutes from the center of town. So if you're in the old town in Edinburgh, it's going to take you about that long to get there. But the weather, they close the path a lot because it rains and the ground gets saturated, so it's a difficult climb. So you won't be able to hike up there if it's too wet, or if it's rainy or windy. You're not going to want to hike up there. But if the weather's like it is now, which is pretty dry and not too terribly cold, then it's not too difficult of a hike if you're a hiker. So if you're comfortable with a solid uphill and downhill hike of about 20 to 30 minutes, you can make your way right up to there. So if you're here for only 2 days, I would say make sure that you plan for Arthur's Seat on your first day and use the second day as sort of your fallback kind of plan. And I would do that early in the morning before it does rain, so you're gonna have at least a little bit colder and harder ground in the morning, especially in the colder months, and then that way you can get up there and get down and then go to the second stop, which is for breakfast, which is one of my favorite places in this city, and I'm gonna take you there right now. So you've just had a hike, or you filmed a video, and now you're going for breakfast. So I just figured that I should tell you where I'm getting this particular view, and that's Regent Road Park. If you want this view, there's the park, there's the view, and there you go. Alright, so I'm filming this over 2 days, so if the sky changes or I'm wearing a hat, that's the reason why. So as I'm walking to Southern Cross Cafe, I thought I'd talk just a little bit about why you might want to go there and sort of the timing that you want to do, especially if you're in the downtown on that Royal Mile. So essentially, what you want to try to plan for is to go do things early in the morning or later in the evening, because in between, especially during the warmer months, it can get quite crowded there. So when it comes to the Southern Cross Cafe, for example, it's usually not too busy before about noon. So about 11:30, when breakfast ends, lunch kicks in, people are leaving their hotels or apartments or whatever. They're gonna start to come out and it's gonna get really full of tourists. So around noon is about the time when it starts to get crowded. So an ideal time to visit is around 10:30 to have breakfast. You can get a sizable breakfast there, and then that will keep you going throughout the day. It's also close to a couple of other spots which I recommend. So what I would recommend, if you go for breakfast and the weather is sort of cloudy, you don't think you're going to get any sunshine, I would then go up to the Edinburgh Castle. There's not a lot in the castle, honestly. If you've seen castles, you've kind of seen all of them. You don't really need to go inside. There's nothing special in there, but the views from there are really good. So you can get pictures, you get a lot of good pictures from there. If you get there on a clear day and you happen to catch the sunset is really good from there. You got both sides. You don't actually need to go in the castle. You just need to walk up from there. And then there's also this other museum called the Atlas Obscura. And sorry, there's a guy, a rabbit. There's a race going on today around Arthur's Seat, I think. So anyway, what I was saying is basically, as you walk up to the castle, there's a museum called Camera Obscura, which is the world of illusion, I believe. And they've got it's kind of an interesting museum. Actually, it's more of an interactive museum, like a science museum, where there are all these optical illusions. You can go up to the very top of that and also get some great views of the rest of the city. So that's also another option. If you have kids, if you travel with children, they're gonna love that place. It's a really good way to sort of spend a couple hours, get them worn out, especially if the weather is not good, which is kind of a sort of a given here at most times. So those are 2 places I would recommend after breakfast. So get some food, get there around 10:30 to Southern Cross, and then head up to Camera Obscura and then the castle and get your photos, or again do the reverse at night if the sky is clear. Alright, so it got a little bit colder, but I thought I would give you some background as to just sort of how to orient yourself in Edinburgh. So if you're here for 2 days or 48 hours, I would say the way you're going to plan this out is probably along the Royal Mile. Royal Mile is the strip which basically goes down through the old town of Edinburgh, and that's where you can find all these different shops. There are a lot of cafes, places to eat. It's basically where a lot of the tourist sites are as well, so you're probably going to be staying close to it, or you're going to be spending a lot of time there. And there are a lot of things to do in this city, but if you've got a short time, I would say you're probably going to spend most of your time along the Royal Mile, and that's why I'm focusing on that part of town for this basically introductory 48 hours for your first visit. One thing you can do after Southern Cross Cafe is you can either walk down Victoria Street or Cockburn Street, and you can there go shopping if you want to do some shopping. It's a good opportunity. If you're a fan of Harry Potter, that street is famous because a lot of the Harry Potter inspiration apparently is from the street and that look of that Victoria Street, so you can walk down there and do some shopping. From there you can either go down to Grassmarket, but I would say basically that area doesn't really give you a lot to do. There are some cafes and some bars and some restaurants there, but none of them in my opinion are particularly good. It's just kind of a nice place to walk around. You can get some good shots of the castle from down below, so taking up above. So you've got that option, and then what you can do is basically walk around to Grassmarket and then walk your way back up sort of into elevation toward the stairs and toward the castle. And then what you want to do from there is walk up to the castle. If the day is good and clear like it is today, which is a kind of a big if in this city, and that can change very frequently, then it's a great time to get pictures. So you can go earlier in the day. This time, middle of the day is good because you've got a lot of bright light, which you don't usually find in this city. You've got great views from the left side and the right side. Inside the castle, there's not a ton of things to see, but if you like castles and you want to get even better views, you can get a little bit higher up by going actually in the castle. So then as you walk your way back up from Grassmarket, right outside of Southern Cross Cafe, you can go to St. Giles Cathedral, which there's a small fee if you want to take pictures. Otherwise it's free entry, and that's depending on how many cathedrals you've seen in your life, probably like a 10 or 15 minute thing. You can walk around, but if you want to take the full audio tour, they have those little audio headsets where you can walk around and look around. But I think for me personally, it's a short stop. I wouldn't spend too much time there. So now you've ticked off those places. It's about close to 1 in the afternoon, I would say, and right after the castle, one thing you can do is book yourself a Meerkat Tour. I would do their underground tour. You can book those online ahead of time. Basically, they take you to the underground of Edinburgh, so you can go down underneath, and there's some great stories there if you like ghost stories. There's some good stories about a Romanian defector. It's just really cool. It's a city basically under the city, and it's one that I highly recommend. That tour is about an hour and 15 minutes. It doesn't cost very much. It's a walking tour, so you're going to want to make sure that you are really basically prepared to walk for an hour or so. It's going to be underground, so it's going to be just a little bit chilly. The photos you take from there are not going to be really great because the lighting is terrible, so you're going to want a flash. If you've got a bigger camera and a bigger flash, you might want to bring that to get better photos from that underground tour. And then once that tour is over, so the tours are basically I think from 2, 4 and 6 p.m. But if you take the 2 p.m. tour, that's going to leave you out around 3:30. I would head over to the Almanac, which is right across where the tour starts from, and you can get a drink there, so it's a good place to get a drink. They also have food, but I would save dinner time and I would make a reservation, or at least head over to Arcade if you want to try some haggis. It's one of the best places to try haggis. It's a little bit on the fancier side, so it's not quite as, basically not like a pub, it's more like a restaurant, just a little bit fancier, but not too over the top fancy, I would say. So you can try your haggis there. If you get there around 5:30, you shouldn't have any trouble finding a seat. But if you want to make sure that you get a place, you can try to make a reservation maybe for the next night or later in the night. Between about 6 and 8 especially, it's going to get very crowded there, and it's going to be hard to find a seat if you just show up. Obviously the thing you want to get there is the haggis and the whiskey. That's what it's famous for, and both of those items are good on the menu, but they've also got steaks and some fish dishes. So if you're not really into haggis, or you tried it and you don't want to try it or whatever, then you can get a couple of alternative dishes as well, and they have got a huge selection of whiskeys. So that's a pretty full first day, or if you want to spread this out over 2 days, I'd say if you're a Harry Potter fan, you've probably heard of Elephant House, where J.K. Rowling spent a lot of time writing the Harry Potter books apparently, so you can check that out. But honestly, the food is not very good, the service is not great, It's not really the best place to go, but if you're a Harry Potter fan, you might want to just sit in there and have a drink. So what I would recommend is to get there at like 7 or 8 p.m. Get there very late in the evening, then it's not very crowded. Usually during the day there are people taking pictures inside and outside. It's sort of a madhouse, and like I said, the service is not great. The coffee isn't too good, although their selection of teas and cakes is pretty decent, but it's not the best place to eat or to hang out. I would say if you really want to spend just a little bit of time there and you want to kind of have a relaxed atmosphere, maybe after your haggis dinner, go to Elephant House to get a coffee. That's a good time to go. That's probably the best time to visit the Elephant House.
Day 2.
On the second day, to start yourself off, I'd recommend breakfast at Circus, which serves sort of a Mediterranean variety of food. It's not very typical Scottish, but it's sort of a mix of Scottish fare and Mediterranean food. Food is really good. The atmosphere is very nice. The cafe itself is also very relaxing. It's a great place to sit and sort of get yourself ready for the day ahead. You're gonna have to do a lot of trading off with the weather, so if you're really lucky, you can do all of this stuff really in one day, except maybe eating that much food all at once. So if you do have a little bit of free time, there's the Golden Hare bookstore. So if you like bookstores, I would recommend you go there. There's also the Storytelling Center, which I liked a lot, and you can find a lot of storytelling sessions there. So you can just walk in the evening. It's just a couple pounds, and there are some great storytellers there. It's a really good way to hear some Scottish folk tales and folk tales from around the world, and live performances. They're about 30 minutes or so that's also another place that you can stop at. You can also head to the new part of the city if you want to do some shopping, if you want to get some more photos from the water. There are plenty of photo vantage points. I've got all of those listed on my website, and I'll link to those down below as well, so you can check those out. And for dinner on your last night, I'd say head to Deacon Brodie's. Sort of typical, it's right in the Royal Mile area. That's a good place so that you can get a dinner and a final drink before you leave Edinburgh and head to Glasgow or maybe some other city in the UK. I would say this though, if you're arriving in Scotland and you have any amount of time, definitely plan a trip to the Highlands. So I'm gonna link to my Highlands video. I made a little drone movie of the Highlands of Scotland to show you just how beautiful it is. I'm gonna link to that below as well. I highly recommend that you go to the Highlands. I would not miss that part of Scotland if you're gonna be here. It's really one of the best places in the world to visit. I would say if you are really crunched for time in Edinburgh, you've got about 48 hours. So 2 days is a good amount of time to see all the real major touristy things, to have all the major sort of traditional foods that you can find here. It's a good amount of time to spend in the city, although there's a lot to do outside of the old part of the city. If you've got only 48 hours though, you can make the most of it. It's a small, walkable city. Everything is sort of nearby, and it's really easy to explore on your own. So I'll leave links and addresses to all these places down in the description below. Hopefully this video has been helpful for you to plan your trip to Edinburgh. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments, and while you're down there, hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'll have new videos for you every week. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.